Okay, we are live again, and I welcome any viewers to our meeting tonight. I need a motion to come out of executive session.
So moved.
Trustee Sandell, second.
Second.
Trustee
Martha.
Kirsch. Discussion? All in favor?
Did you need to do
Roll
roll
call.
call?
Mhm.
Trustee Fiegel,
Aye.
trustee Kershaw,
Aye.
trustee Hare,
Hi, I'm confused. It's out of order.
trustee Pratt,
Aye.
trustee Sandell,
Aye.
trustee Tobin,
Aye.
trustee Young,
Aye.
President Linderman.
Aye.
And I have trustee Lambauser is leaving the meeting at 5:50 p.m.
That's correct. We're out of executive session. Could we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? And I'm going to ask Mrs. Bradley to lead us.
My pleasure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the
And to the republic for which it stands,
one
one nation,
under God,
God, indivisible,
liberty and justice
liberty
for
and
all.
justice.
Thank you, Mrs. Mrs. Coder, roll call.
Trustee Fiegel,
Here.
trustee Kershaw,
Here.
trustee Hare,
Here.
trustee Lambauser, excused, trustee Pratt,
Here.
trustee Sandell,
Here.
trustee Tobin,
Here.
trustee Young,
Here.
and President Linderman.
Here. The next item on our agenda tonight is tonight's mission statement. And with that, will we go into Mrs. Schrader?
Well, sure, but I'll just start it off.
Okay.
I'll just start off by saying this evening, it's a pleasure to announce the top 10 students of Lockport High School class of 2020. And even though they can't be here in person, we would never miss the opportunity to recognize these students for their outstanding academic accomplishments. So we have a little bit of a different take on this, a little bit of a different spin on this evening, but through a pre-recorded message, the students will cite the mission statement, and they will also introduce themselves and talk about their favorite memory of Lockport High School and future goals as graduates of Lockport High School. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mrs. Schrader, who has done a great job of putting this together. Mrs. Schrader?
Thank you. It was a great opportunity, actually. Thank you to Mrs. Bitka, who helped me with the technology pieces, but we enjoyed our virtual meeting with the students last week. They were entertaining and excited, and it just, it warms your heart. That's why we're here. So I just want to warn you that I have to go mute and close my camera in order for it to be the best audio. So I'm going to do that first. I'm going to share my screen, and then I will play the video that we put together of the top 10 students. After that, there will be a second video where they actually recite the mission statement. So I'll start with their individual presentations first.
Hello, my name is Trunks Matthew Arca Ubang. My favorite memory is joining outdoor track and doing hurdles with my friends and team. After graduation, I plan on going to University of Buffalo to major in nursing.
Hi, my name is Alex Ewan, and my favorite memory is when I went to Germany through EF Tours. After graduating, I plan on attending Villa Maria College.
Hi, I'm Sarah McIntyre. My favorite memory from high school is the homecoming game and the parade. It's all so much fun. After high school, I plan on attending the Crane School of Music at SUNY Potsdam for music education.
Hello, my name is Anthony Hack. My favorite memory from high school was the ability to become LHS's first 5-sport athlete in school history, which led to moments I'll never forget. After high school, I plan to attend Syracuse University to study radio, film, and television.
Hi, my name is Ellie Igo, and my favorite memory from my years at LHS would definitely be our homecoming victory this year. And next year, I plan on attending Niagara University with an end goal of becoming a forensic nurse.
Hi, I'm Jenna Bernard. I love partaking in the homecoming festivities at LHS. After high school, I plan to attend the George Washington University to major in international relations with intended focus in Latin American relations or Middle Eastern relations.
Hi, my name is Nick Doxey. My favorite memory from high school would be all the games we played in my Spanish class because they were very competitive. And I will be going to UB to major in biomedical sciences.
I am Colin Fergali. My favorite memories from high school are winning sectionals with my volleyball team my sophomore and junior year. I plan to attend St. Bonaventure University to major in finance in hopes of becoming a stock analyst one day.
I'm Catherine Miner. I'm going to MIT in the fall to major in math and chemical engineering. And my favorite memory from Lockport High School was any time I was with the robotics team, because through my 4 years, they really became my second family.
My name is Jeremy Sutter. My favorite memory is when the robotics team of the high school progressed to the World Championships in Detroit. After high school, I intend to enroll at the University of Buffalo to double major in mechanical and aerospace engineering with a minor in education.
So I don't know if we want to give them a round of applause, what we typically would do if they were here. So just I did last evening send to all of them and their parents a link to how they could live stream today as well and watch it as we were presenting it. And I will also plan to share with them both the video you just saw and then the mission statement video as well. So they'll have that for their memories. So I will move on to the mission statement. It took us a couple takes to do that. We really wanted them all to read it in unison, but as you can imagine, given the technology and the audio difficulties, we ended up having to break it up so that at least every person could be heard. So I will share that right now.
I'm not getting it. What the heck?
We're working on it.
Tom, you may want to go on mute.
I'm trying, Daddy. Technically challenged. How do I mute myself?
If you go down to the bottom of your screen, Trustee Fiegel, and there should be a pop-up with a microphone and a phone. Do you see that?
No, not for me.
Tap the screen, and then it should pop up from the bottom.
Tap it with your mouse, of course.
No, I think he's using his iPad. Are you using an iPad?
Oh, okay.
No, not working.
No.
Oh.
Mrs. Wilkie, proud principal of
I think he
Lockport.
hung up.
Trustee Fiegel. Maybe Deb, you want to contact him? Mrs. Wilkie, are you with us?
Yes.
All right. Is the principal of Lockport High School any words or comments for your top 10 students who are just outstanding?
I mean, it's always a joy to see our top performing students. And of course, they're not just top performing academic students. They're involved in everything from, you know, as you heard, robotics to club related activities. You know, things that are more event based, like homecoming is a lot of, as a lot of them said, is their favorite memories or homecoming related activities. And, you know, they're involved. They're always around. They're dependable. They're just really in talking with them and meeting with them and their parents earlier in the closure. They're just good, well-rounded people. So the world will be lucky to have them amongst ourselves in adulthood very soon.
I think we're all set. I will try this one.
Let it roll.
We believe all people can learn.
Schools create conditions for success.
Academically, socially, emotionally, physically, and aesthetically.
Teaching and learning are
Shared responsibilities of
home, school, and the community.
Our mission is to assure
Comprehensive learning for all.
so that each person will be a lifelong learner.
So congratulations again to all of the top 10 students for their impressive achievements over their high school career. Best wishes to each of them for continued success. And we hope that all of your dreams come true. And always remember Lockport High School and be lion proud and lion strong. Thank you, Mrs. Schrader, for a job well done. Thank you, Dr. LaPuma, and thank you, Mrs. Bitka. Thanks, Mrs. Wilkie, for joining us.
Thank you.
Did you need me for anything?
Are we good, Mrs. Bradley?
You're welcome to stay, Mrs. Wilkie, but if you have other things to do, like maybe plan a graduation ceremony or something like that, you're free to leave.
Thank you, Mrs. Wilkie.
Hi.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody. Have a great night.
You too. Did we get Trustee Fiegel back?
Yes.
Okay. All right. We will.
John, can I say that I wish we would have required Mrs. Wilkie to give us one of her jokes, because we were very lucky to have them during our meetings when she was in audit. Was it audit or policy? And so, you know, we could have required a joke from her before we let her go for the night. So next time.
Yeah, that gives us some time, Trustee Young, right?
She does a good stand-up routine?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Trustee Young. With that, we will move on to Code of Conduct. Mrs. Bradley?
Yes, thank you, President Linderman. Each year, right around this time, the district brings to the Board of Education, the community, the annual review of the required code of conduct. This evening, Mrs. Schrader, Assistant Superintendent for Personnel, will present the code of conduct revisions and also open up for a public hearing. She'll discuss the process for any community member having any questions or comments through the public hearing. And at this time, I'll turn it over to Lisa. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Since we're doing this virtually, things will look a little bit different. What I will do right now is to share my screen so that the community at home can see the PowerPoint that all of you have in front of you. Start by talking about the process that they can use in order to make comments or ask questions during the public hearing. So I will share my screen first. Alrighty, so we will now begin the official public hearing for the Code of Conduct for review and discussion and the hopes to be implemented for the 2020-2021 school year. So I'm going to start, because we're doing this virtually, and just give some information to the public about how they can participate in this public hearing. We have Dr. LaPuma here present this evening, and he will be reviewing his personal school email throughout the entire public hearing. So any community member is welcome to email him directly with a question or a comment relative to the code of conduct. His email is on the screen right now, and I will spell it out. rlipuma, RLIPUMA, at lockportschools.net. And again, he will be monitoring the questions and the comments, and he will share those with us as they come in. So I will start. I'm pleased to facilitate this, the district's annual review of the Code of Conduct. And I wanted to start with some background information, just to put some context behind why the Code of Conduct even exists, because it has not always existed. So it all started back in 1999 with Governor Pataki, and it was really based on the highly publicized tragedies that were occurring in schools at that time. So what he did is create a task force, and the work of this team led to what was eventually the Safe Schools Against Violence Education Act that was enacted in 2001, Project SAVE. And the real purpose of that act was to promote safer learning environments. And of course, came with that some requirements that schools were required to engage in. The first was that district safety plans needed to be developed. In addition, building emergency plans. And then this was at the time that the Code of Conduct was born, essentially, and districts were required to create those. And finally, the Uniform Violent Incident Reporting System was created. So that was a method with which districts were asked to report various types of incidents that were occurring in their schools to the State Education Department. So it didn't stop there. In 2012, there was an amendment called the Dignity Act, which really focused on adding language relative to discrimination and harassment. And it was really intended to focus on discrimination and harassment of an individual based on being a member of a protected class. So districts were required to add language to their codes of conduct specific to discrimination. And then this also required districts at that time to begin reporting incidents of discrimination and harassment to the State Education Department. In 2013, as you can see, there was another amendment addressing cyberbullying when there were increased incidents of the use of technology in bullying behavior. So it only made sense at that time. And then most recently in 2017, following the mass shooting in Newtown, Connecticut, another task force was developed, and their focus really was on school climate, student achievement, taking a positive spin or approach to addressing the concerns happening in schools. They also, at that point, revised the entire VADER reporting system. It's now called SSEC, School Safety and Educational Climate. And by virtue of that name, it's clear that they really wanted to take that positive approach. At that point, the focus was on social emotional learning, restorative practices, which you're going to hear about in a little bit, that we've really focused on incorporating into our plan this year, trauma-informed care, and then an increased emphasis on chronic absenteeism. So now we're going to focus specifically on one part of the legislation, the Code of Conduct, really the reason for our public hearing this evening. And here's some general information about the code. The real purpose that was outlined is to adopt and provide for the enforcement of a written code for the maintenance of order on school property and at school-sponsored events. And the Code of Conduct, it was outlined that it must be developed in collaboration with students, teachers, administrators, and parents. And then finally, there are 3 very specific requirements: that this code of conduct must be reviewed annually by a district committee, and we'll talk about what our committee looks like in a moment. There must be a public hearing annually to review the revisions to the district code of conduct. And then finally, there is an annual approval by the Board of Education and adoption of the code of conduct. Outlined in the law, there are very specific components of codes of conduct. that must be required. So I wanted to review those again for a frame of reference. And just as a reminder, a district code of conduct applies not only to students and staff, but to parents and any visitors that come on school property or attend a school-sponsored event. These are the 7 major areas or components. You'll see in a minute that our code of conduct itself is broken up into some additional areas, but we do address all 7 required components. So first is provisions regarding conduct, dress, and language, provisions prohibiting harassment, bullying, and discrimination, as I talked about, procedures to ensure security and safety of all staff and students, disciplinary measures to be taken, including provisions for suspension, detention, removal, and also ways to intervene and be proactive. Provisions for communication with parents, local law enforcement, and social services agencies. So we are getting the services that students may need if they're struggling in school behaviorally. Information regarding retaliation and in-service for staff and for students. And then there are special provisions based on Part 200 regulations relative to how students with disabilities are required to be addressed if they engage in behavior that is not supportive of the code of conduct. So on this screen are the 15 sections in the Lockport City School District Code of Conduct. These have been the sections in the code for as long as I can remember, to be honest. So there's an introduction, really just a summary of the district philosophy and our mission statement and what our focus is. There are definitions that outline various types of groups and words that a person would encounter when reading through the entire code of conduct. Student rights and responsibilities, as you can imagine, and next, essential partners' rights and responsibilities. And those would be people like teachers, administrators, superintendent, on up. There's specific section on student dress code, a section on prohibited student conduct, and it really addresses disruptive, disorderly, violent, discriminating, harassing behaviors. And there's also language in there about academic misconduct. There's a section about how violations are reported and documented, disciplinary procedures, interventions, and consequences. And these include logical consequences, progressive discipline, and also interventions that, again, could be proactive before a situation arises that might result in a consequence. Alternative instruction, what we will do if a student is unable to be at school due to not following the code of conduct. The disciplining students with disabilities section, as I talked about, there are very specific due process rights for students with disabilities. There is a corporal punishment section, a student search and interrogation section. There's an entire section devoted to visitors on school property and expectations for their behavior. Public conduct on school property and potential consequences if something were to not fit with the code of conduct expectations. And then finally, how we're going to disseminate and review the code of conduct throughout the coming year. So the meat of this presentation really will focusing on the proposed changes for the 2021 school year. And I wanted to start just by sharing the process that we undertook to get to this point. So essentially mid-year-ish, January, I sent out an email to administrators to solicit any ideas, suggestions for edits, additions, deletions to the code of conduct. Fortunately, before school was closed for students, Mrs. Wilkie and I had an opportunity to meet with her Principals Advisory Council and get their feedback and input on the code of conduct. And they were a very helpful group of about 10 key student leaders at the high school. So they had a lot of input, especially to certain sections of the code. We then met with the District Code of Conduct Committee in late April, and that was a virtual meeting. The members of that committee are on the front page of the Code of Conduct. The nice thing this year is that we added some additional teacher members so that we made sure to represent the elementary, middle, junior high, and high school levels appropriately. We had not had those level members in previous years. PTA was also represented on that committee. And then revisions of the code as a result of all of those conversations and input were shared with administrators in early May, and now we're at the point of the public hearing and sharing it with the Board of Education. So again, that gives you just a sense of how we got here today from January timeframe. Most of the recommended changes really are, number one, for us to be in compliance with what we're required to do, but also to be consistent with current district practices and what has worked specific to Lockport. So I will start by saying really that our focus this year was on the positive school culture and climate part of the task force that came out in 2017. So we added quite a bit of language relative to our desire to have a positive school culture and climate first, in the hopes that we are not seeing as much misbehavior, inappropriate behavior in the school setting. So the most substantive changes I would say to the code this year were supporting the initiatives of a positive school climate and being more proactive in terms of addressing school safety. And it really, we for the first time have included very specific language on the use of restorative practices as a means of promoting relationship building and problem solving to resolve conflicts. So the goal of restorative practices is really to improve and repair relationships, bringing victims and offenders together to address wrongdoing, and by building trust amongst members of our school community. So to this end, the district really was prepared to provide some significant training to staff on restorative practices. Unfortunately, with the pandemic, that may look a little different, but we definitely still have a goal over the next few months, perhaps, to give every staff member an overview of the restorative practices concept in order to set us up for future improvements in the district. So we believe that by embracing this philosophy, it will assist us in continuing to provide a positive and safe school climate. So again, that really was the major focus of the changes of the code this year, although we did do some other updates as well. We updated some of the definitions specific to the words such as discrimination and gender and restorative practices, just making sure we are inclusive of all of the parties that are in our school community. We updated our essential partners to clarify who is included. So in the past, this year's code of conduct has a section for expected teacher behavior. We wanted to include all of the different constituency groups in the district, like teaching assistants and teacher aides and teachers on special assignment and custodial and clerical. Everyone has a role in this, and everyone, so we clarified each person's piece of the puzzle. Every year, we update the Dignity Act coordinators. As part of the regulation, we are required to identify at least 2 individuals in every building that would be the go-to if a student or staff member had a concern about something that was happening or felt like someone was being discriminated against. So we do have those people identified and officially board approved each year as a go-to for students and families. This next section, the dress code, was the one that students spent the most time talking about, to be honest, and gave us some great feedback on. Specifically, we talked a lot about shirts and appropriate footwear and the appropriate wearing of coats during certain situations. So there's some amendments to those areas. We did update the prohibited student conduct section, specific to adding language relative to the use of technology, to drugs, weapons, and bomb threats. And as you can imagine, just listening to those 4 categories, they're just timely based on things, unfortunately, we've experienced. Another new nuance that actually didn't exist before this year, we did add some language relative to the red flag law provisions in reporting violations. So as a reminder, a school staff member who has a reason to believe a student is likely to engage in conduct that would cause a serious harm to themselves or others can apply to a local court for an extreme risk protection order. So we've outlined that in the code, again, as a new section. The next section came from some of our teacher members. We really clarified the teacher disciplinary removal of disruptive students process. Up until this year, it really was paragraphs of information, and they were looking for more of a step-by-step step to make it clearer about what the teacher responsibility was. So we outlined that really from the point where the student engages in the misbehavior and the teacher is having a conversation with that student, to how the fact that the teacher is documenting it, that there is a communication with the parents and a conference with the teacher and principal, and then the last step or the next step of either issuing a consequence or really working out an intervention to help support the student. So I think it's much more clearly laid out for school staff members to be able to follow. We revised the dissemination section and made it clear that our main way to share our code of conduct is through our website. So it's published there as soon as it's adopted by the board, and it remains there throughout the entire school year. And lastly, we updated the student acceptable use policy because that was a revised policy that the policy committee had acted upon at some point in the past year or so. As a reminder, I just will add that parents and students are expected to read the annual code of conduct and sign an acknowledgement form that is kept in the main office, indicating that they understand and that they are willing and able to comply with the information outlined in the code. So I expect after this public hearing, we'll entertain any questions or comments, and then the Board of Education will be expected to approve the Code of Conduct for the 2021 school year at one of the June Board of Education meetings. So I'll open it up for a discussion or to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mrs. Schrader. It is open for discussion for the board. If there's any questions, Trustee Young.
I know I sent a list of just some clerical things that I noticed in the code. It's the policy committee in me that, just picked up on a few things, but just a couple of things that I did note that I wanted to add that weren't necessarily clerical was the mentioning of all of our policies that coincide with a lot of these specific sections. Like we definitely have a policy on searches and searches and interrogations, and a dress code and harassment and those sorts of things. So just so then, if someone's looking for more information other than just the little blurb in the code of conduct, they could go to our policy manual and see, all of the full policy, the full district policy. And the other thing was that I thought we should mention the Lion's Den, the use of our Lion's Den, and also to mention about misuse of our tip line, something to that, make some sort of mention in the prohibited student conduct, because I know we've had issues with that, and so I'd like to see that specifically outlaid in it somewhere that that really prohibits, misuse of the tip line. So those were my only points.
Thank you, Trustee Young.
I have some comments.
You're up, Trustee Hare.
Okay, thanks. I wanted to say that I was delighted to see the changes around school culture and implementing restorative practice within our schools. I know that we've been working on that for a few years, and I'm glad to see it so well spelled out in the code of conduct. So I appreciate that. I appreciate the changes to the dress code portion of the code of conduct, and I hope it continues to evolve so it doesn't inadvertently target certain parts of the population. My daughter was actually in the PAC group that gave input, and I could see a little bit of her in there. But I hope it continues to evolve and make sure that it doesn't target any specific subpopulations. So thank you for all that hard work. It was a lot of work, a lot of really good changes this year.
Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee.
John, sorry, go ahead, Kevin.
Kevin, and then Ed.
Yeah, I just, one comment, one question. That was a massive amount of work. It's the most amount of changes I remember seeing in code of conduct. Hats off to the people on that committee and the time and effort they put forward. I do have a question on page, I think it's 18 or 19. and it has to do with discipline and teacher-student removal. The current language says something to the effect of the teacher fills out a district-wide form, and the current proposed language is that the form will now be building-wide. And I'm just curious as to what was the thought or idea behind that. Is there going to be 7 different disciplinary removal forms?
Not necessarily. We actually, both North Park and the high school currently have gone to an online disciplinary reporting system. So they utilize eSchool. A teacher would log into eSchool. They would document a concern. That then generates an automatic email to the administrative team, who would then respond as they see appropriate. And then they can then generate an email right back to the teacher or when they address it. We've not yet implemented that system at elementary. We were in the beginning stages of exploring it. In fact, Dr. LaPuma had prepared a presentation to be shared with the K-6 teachers on what would have been the March Superintendent's Conference Day. So until that system is up and running, it looks a little different right now, which is why that language was changed. We don't have a district-wide system. The hope or the plan may likely be that everyone will start using eSchool at some point, and then that will be a standard practice.
Okay, appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Trustee Pratt. Trustee Sandell?
Yeah, just a thought. First of all, again, I appreciate all the work that was done. As members of the policy committee, we understand reading these things and trying to make sure that they reflect what we want. And having taken the positive outlook was really a great step in the right direction. One concern I have about suggestions we make here, though, from a process standpoint, the committee that did this is making a recommendation to a bunch of changes. If we add in comments or, like, for example, the reference to the policies, does it have to go back to that committee to get agreement before it gets sent back to the board again? Because I wouldn't want to change something that they did, even though they may agree with it.
They knew I explained the public hearing process when we had our committee meeting, not to the students, however, but I definitely did to the Code of Conduct Committee. And I can certainly, in fact, I think I have in the past sent it back to them when there have been other recommended changes, and I can outline those in a different color so that they can see the feedback that we received from the board. Dr. LaPuma indicated to me that there were not any comments or questions from the public, but we would have incorporated those as well if appropriate. So that's
okay. That's great. So yeah, and I agree with the comments that Karen made, and I appreciate her going through in such fine detail, as I would expect from her anyway.
Thank you, Trustee Sandell.
Were the numbering issues in there, Karen?
Just a little bit that, there were not some numbers, there were some missing, that's all.
And she did recommend the use of the word practicable.
And persons in parental relation.
Thank you, Trustee Sandell.
Those were some inside jokes, by the way. Sorry about that.
Any other questions or comments?
Go ahead, Mark.
Trustee Tobin? And then Trustee Kershaw.
Okay. About the Dignity Act coordinators, I like that you added another one at High School West. I noticed that there was only one before. And I know this may not be practical in all of our buildings because we don't have a lot of necessarily, let's say, male staff in our elementary buildings. But is it possible for us to have Dignity Act coordinators, at least one of each gender? I noticed that some schools have both female or both male. And I'm concerned as maybe a student might not feel comfortable going up, a female student may not feel comfortable going to a male dignity coordinator. And if there's only them, I guess they could really go to any teacher that they felt comfortable with and that they could report it to the dignity coordinator. Is that Am I understanding?
That does happen. I will tell you that it's been reported to other staff members, and then it's the job of the 2 Dignity Act coordinators really just to investigate. They turn it then over to the administrators in the building to determine consequences, interventions. They're definitely a piece of that. The Dignity Act coordinators are not a part of the end result, more the investigation phase. But I am happy to go back. I usually ask the principals every year who they would like to be appointed as their Dignity Act coordinators, but I'm happy to reach out before they're formally approved and suggest that. And see
I mean, I guess I'm okay with it staying this way as long as maybe could we put in there that if you need to report something, you can report it to anyone, any one of our staff, and they will get it to the dignity coordinators. It doesn't have to necessarily be this person.
Absolutely. That's a great suggestion. I will add that to that section where those dignity coordinators are outlined.
Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Tobin. Trustee Kershaw?
So thank you so much for all of the work that this group did. I too appreciate the inclusion of the restorative practices. One of the things that I wanted to share that I had suggested by email before the meeting was some inclusive language in the definitions related to our transgender students. So I asked for the addition of the term gender identity to have another way for those to be described. And I shared a definition from the CDC specific to that, but I think it's a little bit more inclusive for that population. So that's all I wanted to share.
Thank you for that.
Thank you, Martha.
Further comments?
I'll just say thank you to Mrs. Schrader and the entire Code of Conduct Committee for, again, their good work. And, you know, the Lockport City School District over several years has taken great measures for physical security within our school district, throughout the school district. But we really have that twin requirement of physical safety and psychological safety. And through this code of conduct and the emphasis on relationships and school climate, that really gets to students feeling safe psychologically in an environment as well as physically, and it provides opportunities for students to turn to adults to help them. So I believe that we're trying to strike that balance and keep students, all people, safe physically, but also more importantly, maybe sometimes on a daily basis, the psychological piece of that.
Thank you, Mrs. Bradley. If there are no further comments, the next item on our agenda tonight is the public forum on the Code of Conduct. And I understand there was no emails came in, Mrs. Schrader?
No, Dr. LaPuma is here, and he said he did not receive any emails during that period of time.
Okay. If there's no emails or comments from the public, we will close the public forum. And Mrs. Schrader, thank you again.
You're welcome.
And with that, we will move on to item 3, our agenda and the minutes of approval. I now need a motion for the approval of tonight's proposed agenda. Motion, please.
So moved.
Trustee Tobin, I need a second.
And Kevin got it.
Kevin? I didn't see him. Okay. I have a motion and I have a second. Discussion. Roll call. Mrs. Coder?
Trustee Fiegel?
Trustee Fiegel? We lose he's there.
I saw him say it.
Trustee Fiegel, pop up your
He's
head.
muted.
He's muted.
We force him to mute and see what happened.
Oh, and he got booted again.
Thumbs up.
He's gone.
He left the meeting? Okay.
I'm sure it was by accident.
Aye.
Trustee Hare?
Aye.
Trustee Pratt?
Aye.
Trustee Sandell?
Aye.
Trustee Tobin?
Aye.
Trustee Young?
Aye.
President Linderman?
Aye. We're going to work on getting Trustee Fiegel back.
He's here.
Trustee, Trustee Fiegel is back.
Yeah. Can he thumbs up me?
Trustee Fiegel, can you hear us?
I think it's there. I see it. I can't see him though.
I can. He's thumbs upping.
Okay.
Thumbs up? Okay.
Okay.
Fingers crossed.
Sounds good.
Thank you, Trustee here for monitoring.
Next item is for the approval of the proposed minutes for the work session meeting of April 1st, 2020, and the regular meeting of April 8th, 2020. I need a motion, please.
So moved.
Trustee Kershaw, I need a second.
Second.
Trustee Pratt. Discussion.
Trustee Fiegel.
Roll call, Mrs. Coder, or do you want to wait a minute?
Hold, please.
We have a
Yes,
phone call
Trustee Fiegel.
coming in from Trustee
Are you
Fiegel.
on? How do you unmute? I'm going to have Dr. LaPuma is going to call you right now on your cell phone to unmute you. Okay.
Do you want us to tell you if he thumbs ups you?
Yes.
Yeah, let me know when he thumbs up. So
roll call.
Trustee Fiegel,
He gave a thumbs up.
thank you. Trustee Kershaw,
Aye.
Trustee Hare,
Hi.
Trustee Pratt,
Thumbs up.
Trustee Sandell,
Aye.
Trustee Tobin,
Aye.
Trustee Young,
Aye.
and President Linderman.
Aye. Motion is carried. The next item on our agenda tonight, we have business matters. What we will be doing tonight is breaking this down to business matters 1 through 3. We will skip 4 and we will go to 5. So I need a motion for the approval of business matters A 1 through 3.
So moved.
Trustee Sandell, I need a second.
Second.
Trustee Pratt, discussion. Mrs. Coder, roll call.
Trustee Fiegel,
Thumbs up.
Trustee Hare, who's watching Trustee Fiegel's thumb.
I don't see a thumb.
He's talking to Dr. LaPuma right now.
Oh, now I see a thumb.
You got a thumb. Okay. Trustee Kershaw,
Aye.
Trustee Hare,
Aye.
Trustee Pratt,
Aye.
Trustee Sandell,
Aye.
Trustee Tobin,
Aye.
Trustee Young,
Aye.
Okay, I'm back aboard.
President
Thanks,
Linderman.
Rob.
Aye.
I know you're dealing with a challenged person here.
We hear you, Trustee Fiegel.
Aye, I'm back.
All right.
Yay!
Hey!
Trustee Hare was monitoring you for us, so.
Yeah, I think he could
Good
hear.
girl.
He just
That's why she's my partner next to me.
Also on the business matters.
don't mute again, Tom.
We have number 5, amend the 2019-2020 school calendar. I need a motion to approve.
So moved. That's Heather.
Trustee Hare, a second.
Second.
That was
Trustee
Tom.
Tobin.
Oh, I thought that was
No.
Fiegel. Okay.
I'm not
Trustee
muted.
Fiegel, we'll give you the second.
Yeah, I thought I heard him.
Okay.
Okay.
Discussion. Mrs. Coder, roll call again, please.
Trustee Fiegel,
Aye.
yay. Trustee Kershaw,
Aye.
Trustee Hare,
Aye.
Trustee Pratt,
Aye.
Trustee Sandell,
Aye.
Trustee Tobin,
Aye.
Trustee Young,
Aye.
President Linderman.
Aye. Motion is carried. Now, number 4 on our action items is to adopt the 2021 expenditure budget and approve submission of the property tax report card. And we had tabled this. So
I make a motion to remove the question concerning the adoption of the 2021 expenditure budget and submission of the property tax report card be taken from the table.
Very good.
thank you, Trustee Young. Motion by Trustee Young. I need a second.
I second that.
Trustee Kershaw,
Okay. Good
Okay.
job, guys.
We are now going to open it up for discussion, correct, Mrs. Coder?
Yes.
Okay.
I want to know if Karen practiced that before.
I can tell she read it right off.
Good job. And with that, we're going to open it up for discussion. Mrs. Bradley, do you want to open the discussion?
Sure, John. And this evening, sorry, Trustee Young.
Do we need to motion it now and then second it and then have the discussion? Because I just motioned to take it off the table.
No, that's okay because it was on the table. So your motion to get it off the table with the second now puts it back up for discussion.
Okay,
So you're
just wanted to check.
Yep, thank you.
Mrs. Bradley?
Yes. So, after a thorough review of expenditures and a lot of revenues for this budget, the 2021 school budget, in order to approve an expenditure budget for next school year, we will be closely monitoring the revenues with the threat or possibility of future state aid reductions throughout the school year. Governor Cuomo has placed 3 measurement periods. The first measurement period concluded April 30th, and school districts are waiting to see if there will be any a more immediate state aid reductions to next year's foundation aid or pandemic adjustment. We're currently in the second measurement period due to end the end of June. And at that time that school districts hear of any potential reductions in state aid or the pandemic adjustment, we're also hopeful that there might be another phased federal stimulus to help school districts get through this pandemic. So we're trying to pace ourselves through the pandemic, closely monitor expenditures, and keep our eyes and ears open for the revenue picture. And at this time, I will turn it back to President Linderman for any comments or thoughts from the other board members.
Sorry, I'm on mute. I'll open it up for discussion. I guess, Mrs. Coder, is there anything you would like to add at this time?
Well, right now your budget still stands at $509,809. There have been no additional adjustments since we met last week. However, we did share with you a list of programs for non-mandated programs for next year. The audit committee was aware of please realize it's a list of programs and the non-mandated programs, what the costs are. It is in no way a recommendation to say you need to slice or do anything at the moment. The best thing to do is stay steady, approve your budget here. It's a ceiling. We don't have to spend everything. You have a number of positions that you're going to hold on while we wait to hear the revenue picture. So again, I want to assure you, you will get through next year. You're not going to have to do any year layoffs and suffer a huge loss in state aid. The tough year will be 2021-22. So it is a solid budget. You should be very proud of all the work you've done on it. It's a 2.71% increase, and it stays within the simple majority tax cap.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Carter. Mrs. Carter, just one quick question. The board was originally going to adopt a budget on March 25th, correct?
Correct.
We have held off. So the total adjustments that we have made since March 25th from that budget amounts to 1.4 million?
Total budget adjustments are $1,200,527 since January 8th of 2020.
Okay, thank you. Open it up for further discussion.
I have a concern. I know this board and previous boards have always kept in mind the fact that we didn't want to saddle any future board with any hardships or adversities. Debbie says that we're good for this year, but if figures come in that alter this and put a board in jeopardy in 2 years, are we being fair? It's something that's bothering me. Do we want to take the risk of putting a future board and not somebody down 5 years or 6 years, within 2 years, putting that board in jeopardy with a budget?
President Linderman, may I respond to that?
Yes, Ms. Coder.
Yes. So Trustee Fiegel, I understand your concerns, and I believe your concerns are also shared by other committee members. The budget before you tonight is the ceiling. And as you heard a little bit earlier, there are some positions that we're going to hold on filling until we get a more firmer picture on the state aid. And hopefully we'll have one of the measurement periods, the outcome of that in soon. The other items that I did present to the Board of Education are non-mandated programs, and there's more to be added, different areas. There is more to be added so that you will have the district administration, by keeping the board informed, you will have enough information that if you need to make any adjustments before the start of the school year, we can, if that the board will have an opportunity to make adjustments then. To cut a budget right now at the moment, not knowing what our state aid picture is, and then if we find out that the revenue wasn't cut, now we have no ability to put in those enhancements for the behavioral supports that we normally would have if we cut the budget too low. So the goal would be approve this ceiling, but continue to monitor the revenue situation, and we'll keep the Board of Education updated along the way through the weekly updates, and we have 2 other board meetings coming up. So I do understand your concerns, Trustee Fiegel, but we'll keep on it.
Trustee Fiegel, just to add to that, is your concern the use of reserves for this budget?
Yes, yes. Very, very deep concern there, because we're going deep into those reserves. And they're not going to be able to be made up in any period of time that would possibly save a future board. I know a lot of people will think the future will take care of itself, but sometimes that doesn't work that way. And we have to be concerned, are we going to be able to progress into next year, the following year, and still give our students the best education possible because we were fiscally sound along the way. It's just something that's stuck with me since I've been looking at this budget, and it just worries me is all. But
Mrs. Coder, the total amount of reserves that we are using is?
It's two, oh, I don't have it in front of me. It's Trustee Young, pull out your book for me. I think it's 2.7 million. The reserves itself is right in line with what we've been consistently using. I believe what Trustee Fiegel is referring to is the usage of appropriated fund balance. That has gone up $1.9 million over what we've consistently used. And I believe that is Trustee Fiegel's concern. That $1.9 million, it will be available for use for next year. The audit committee has seen that by looking at the cash flow statement. They know they have enough money to do that. But I believe Trustee Fiegel's concern is that was $1.9 million. Maybe we could have put back into reserves for the future rainy days. And I believe that's the point he's trying to make.
Okay. Now, these are unappropriate fund balance at?
Yeah, I don't have my revenue sheet here.
Okay. All right.
We're using $4 million in appropriated fund balance total, but it's an increase of 1.9 million over last year.
Thank you, Mrs. Coder. Okay. Any other questions or comments regarding this budget? Trustee Young.
John?
Yep.
Ed, can I have you mute real quick?
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. But I had something else besides that. So regarding the budget, I think that I know that there's a lot of talk of cutting, and should we make the cuts now because of the we don't know what's going to go on. And I think that the problem with making any cuts at this point is we have no idea if we're going to lose funding, how much funding, if there's going to be extra money coming in where we won't be losing any funding and we're getting more money. And so personally, I too worry about having to dip into the reserves, but I also don't want to put ourselves into a situation where we've already made the cuts and then we're made whole, and so we're back to where we were, and now we've made those cuts already and we can't go back to that. And so I think that I know there's the plan to monitor things throughout the year and through as the state's doing with their adjustment periods, and we make our check our things with our adjustment periods. And I know Ms. Coder's office does it every month. They keep track of all the money. Well, not every month, all the time, but there's cash flow statements all the time. And so I'm confident at this point, and I would want to put forth the budget as it is, and then again, just not fill positions that if we can't, if we do get some cuts. So.
Thank you, Trustee. I thought I heard Trustee Hare or Trustee
Yes.
Pratt. Trustee Hare, then Trustee Pratt.
Okay. I just want to echo what Karen said. She stole the words out of my mouth. I am generally nervous. I'm very nervous right now that we don't have a clear picture of what our funding is for the year. And I'm nervous that the state budget isn't ever approved in time for us. This is a crazy situation to be put into, but the whole world's in it now. And I think that it is a prudent plan that we've got now, where we're going to hold back on some of these positions that I really, really want us to have. And I know the rest of us do too. But it's prudent at this point to hold off on hiring for those, even if they are in the budget. We are very conservative with our spending, and we will be very careful. This budget is a ceiling. It doesn't mean we have to spend it all, but if we get, this money that seems to be stuck at the federal level right now, if it does come through, I don't want us to not be able to hire a school counselor or a social worker that we could really use, especially this year. So I understand where Trustee Fiegel is coming from, and I really appreciate it, because that's why we're in a good position now, because of trustees like Fiegel, who have been here a long time and know that this is an issue. And we do need to keep an eye on it. And we promise those of us who will be continuing forward to continue to do that and make sure that we're being as conservative as possible while also serving our students.
Thank you, Trustee Hare. Trustee Pratt.
I always have concerns with dipping into the reserves. I've mentioned this numerous times. I do like the idea that we did start out with a very positive budget. We have pared it down 1.2, 1.4 million, but we do have set aside enough reserves to help carry us over for the next 2 to 3 years. I think that's a good idea. I think we've done a good job with that. With this particular budget, I do find a level of comfort with the fact that we have flexibility. We're funding certain positions. We are not filling them. We can hold back on that. Gives us some flexibility to move forward. And then hopefully we'll get a clearer picture, not just from state, but from federal.
Thank you, Trustee Pratt.
John, I would just like to say that this was not the easy budget process I was promised when I said I would be on the audit committee. And I'm not happy about that at all. No, I agree with what Heather and Karen said. This is, I want to remember, this is a ceiling. That's, you don't want to cut yourself down before you even know for sure what you're going to get. And I'm sure I speak for Martha when I say that thank you, Kevin and Karen and Deb, for the incredible amount of experience you guys have brought to this, because it was our first time putting together such a large budget. And it was it was definitely eye-opening. It was definitely definitely an education. So I appreciate your leadership, and I feel comfortable. I am very much like Heather, nervous all the time when it comes to, because this is not a small amount of money. These are big numbers. But I think right now we're in a really good spot, and hopefully we never have to cut anything because we get everything that we're supposed to get. But we do have a solid plan in place if that is what comes down.
Thank you, Trustee Tobin. And Trustee Tobin, I just want you to know that Mrs. Coder has been appropriately chastised for not warning us of a global pandemic.
Yeah, I don't know how she didn't see this coming. It's quite ridiculous.
I did
I'm really
holistic retirement, didn't I?
You did. Further questions or comments with this?
I'd just like to thank my fellow board members, John, for taking this time to explaining their thoughts. And, you know, I feel confident in what these board members are going to do. And I want to be part of this team. I'll still have my reservations, but I thank you very much for your input. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Fiegel. I just have a couple comments. All my years on the board, we've periodically run into budget issues, budget problems, significant problems. And this board and this district has always worked through it. And we have remained patient and calm, and we get through it with what I consider minimal damage. With that said, we've never faced a global pandemic. And as Trustee Harris said, there's always the concern that the state budget won't come in on time and we'll have to approve our budget. Now we're dealing with a moving budget, which is unprecedented. So we have to move with that. I too am comfortable that we have a budget with a ceiling that and the flexibility that we don't have to fill positions, and we can move forward with the unknown, with the unknowns that we're faced come September and beyond. And I think we'll make those adjustments, and I have confidence in our administration that they will monitor this budget and monitor the what's happening at the federal level. And I'm going to take Trustee Rosie outlook that we will get stimulus money from the federal government. Keep our fingers crossed. But I support this budget as laid out to us tonight. Further discussion from any trustees? Okay. With that, Mrs. Coder, this had been tabled. We had a motion, a second discussion. Can we move forward to adopt?
Yes, it's been taken off the table and it's now ready for action. So all you need is a roll call vote.
Okay, so number 4, we now need a roll call vote to adopt the 2020-2021 expenditure budget and approve submission of the property tax report card. Roll call, Mrs. Coder.
Trustee Fiegel?
Aye.
Trustee Kershaw?
Aye.
Trustee Hare?
Aye.
Trustee Pratt?
Aye.
Trustee Sandell?
You got to unmute now, Ed.
Trustee Sandell?
Sorry about that. Yeah, aye. Didn't you
Okay.
see me thumb up? Didn't somebody see me thumb up? No. Aye.
Trustee Tobin?
Aye.
Trustee Young?
Aye.
President?
Aye. Motion's carried.
Thank you for your support.
Thank you.
And with that, we will move on to personnel appointments and resignations. Number 1, dated May 7th, 2020. I need a motion, please.
So moved.
Trustee Fiegel.
Second.
Trustee Sandell. Discussion. All in favor? Roll call.
Aye.
Trustee Fiegel?
Aye.
Trustee Kershaw?
Aye.
Trustee Hare?
Aye.
Trustee Pratt?
Aye.
Trustee Sandell?
Aye.
Trustee Tobin?
Aye.
Trustee Young?
Aye.
President
Aye. Also under personnel appointments and resignations and other, we have number 2 dated May 13th, 2020. Need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Trustee
Second.
Fiegel, second.
Second.
Trustee Sandell. Discussion. Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Fiegel,
Aye.
Trustee Kershaw,
Aye.
Trustee Hare,
Aye.
Trustee Pratt,
Aye.
Trustee Sandell,
Aye.
Trustee Tobin,
Aye.
Trustee Young,
Aye.
President Linderman.
Aye. Motion is carried. We move on to C, special needs. I need a motion to approve 1, Committee on Preschool Special Education, and 2, Committee on Special Education. Need a motion, please.
Motion.
Trustee Pratt, second.
Second. Leslie,
Okay.
second.
Trustee Tobin. Discussion. Roll call.
Trustee Fiegel,
Aye.
Trustee Kershaw,
Aye.
Trustee Hare,
Aye.
Trustee Pratt,
Aye.
Trustee Sandell,
Aye.
Trustee Tobin,
Aye.
Trustee Young,
Aye.
President Linderman.
Aye. Motion's carried. Next item on our agenda tonight, legislative update. Trustee, thank you, or Trustee Hare, thank you for providing us with the information you did earlier in the week. Do you have anything to add or say tonight?
No, there really wasn't much to tell you. Everything's coming through executive order and from the federal level and through regulations from state ed. So the district has that well in hand.
Okay, thank you, Trustee Hare. Next item on the agenda, Board President's comments. We're getting late in the evening. This has been a long meeting, so I'll keep my comments brief. I just want to thank Mrs. Schrader for the terrific presentation tonight on our top 10 students and the mission statement. And I wish all our students the best of luck. This has been just a strange year for our seniors, and you know, it's too bad that it had to end this way. But I know there's events that are still being planned for them as they move on from Lockport High School. I just again want to congratulate Mrs. Bradley and her staff for the tremendous job they've done on this budget. Again, you know, who would have ever seen this coming? And I want to thank the board. I just want you to know that as president of this board, I'm very proud of you and action that you've taken and the patience that you have shown in developing this budget. We took the budget out another 6-7 weeks from when we were originally going to adopt it. And again, I thank the board for all their hard work. We've had many meetings to get this done. So again, thank you. And with that, I am going to move on to the committee of the whole. Trustee Fiegel.
Thank you, Mr. President Linderman. I'll keep it short. Again, thank you, fellow board members, for helping me to feel a little bit better. I look around at the diversity of the group and the knowledge that you bring, and I feel comfortable that should a situation arise down the road, that you're going to take the same interest and the same attitude that you took on this budget. Thank you very much. Secondly, congratulations to our 10 outstanding students. And I have a special interest, my great niece, Sarah McIntyre. Very proud of her accomplishments. I've seen her through the years. I know how hard she works. And it's been a privilege of mine to be on the board. I had 4 grandchildren that I presented diplomas to, and I just miss this year with Sarah, my great niece. But thank you, Mr. President. And on to the next person.
Thank you. Trustee Hare.
Oh, we're going around the table in order.
Yeah, that's all I got. Yeah, I don't like change.
Yeah. Well, that it's good you handle it so well, even if you don't like it. I just also wanted to congratulate the top 10, and they're just the tip of the spear. There is a whole bunch of other fantastic graduates leaving high school this year that we're lucky to have enter into our community or go off to college. I have a nephew that is also graduating this year, and I'm really proud. I saw him run by my house earlier with a giant grin on his face, and it got me emotional. And then I see these kids, it's all emotional. So I am also very proud of this board for how we've handled this crisis. The district leadership has been incredible. The way that you've all pulled together and provided for our community in the middle of this crisis has really been incredibly inspiring. And to the community, you may not know some of the things that we voted on tonight, but one thing that was important that we do tonight is to amend some of the important policies that we spend a lot of time poring over every month in order to, well, we weren't amending the policy, we were approving a resolution to help us finish out this year strong for our students. And you may not know that just from hearing us vote on these personnel items. And every one of these things we vote on, there's a lot of work that goes into it behind the scenes, especially for the district staff, but also for us. So I'm proud of all we've been able to accomplish. I mean, even just having meetings like this is a big accomplishment. So congratulations to the graduates, congratulations to the district, congratulations to us. We're going to keep plowing forward and do right by our students, by our teachers, and by our community. So, thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Hare. Trustee Tobin.
I wanted to say thank you, especially to Mrs. Schrader and the top 10 students that took the time to put that video together. It was really sad that I didn't get to see them in person for the very first time as a board member, but this was the next best thing. I just want to say congratulations to our entire senior class. I know this is a really weird time, and it's not how you envisioned it. It's not how any of us had the privilege of graduating from our schools. But this doesn't take away from any of your accomplishments or what you're going to go ahead and do for the rest of your lives. So I just hope that you guys are staying healthy and happy, and that you are still so proud of what you've been able to do in your probably more than 4, but definitely your 4 years through Lockport High School. Congratulations.
Thank you, Trustee Tobin. Trustee Sandell.
Thank you, John. Yeah, the budget has been a tough process. I want to thank the audit committee for all the inputs that they've given us, and the communication. It's important for us to hear what happens in those meetings, not just the minutes, but to get feedback. I really appreciate that. Congratulations to Superintendent Bradley and her staff and all the work that's been done to get to where we are. I know that it's going to be a tough job financially, but more than that, to provide a quality education in these times, the administration, the teachers, and the students are all going to have a tough time. They are now, and they're going to have a tough time, so we need to support them. It was nice to see Principal Wilkie on the call today. To see her perspective, I mean, she's full of life anyway, and just to have her energy to behind you could see how proud she was of those students, and I'm sure she's proud of all of them. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Trustee Sandell. Trustee Young.
So I want to also congratulate the entire class, and to Heather's point, there are so many kids that are doing absolutely wonderful things that we didn't feature tonight. They weren't the top 10, but I always find this amazing when we do this top 10 presentation. This is my 4th one, and every single one of those top 10 had an average over 100, which is crazy, which just means there are so many more kids that are, at 99, at 98. And so anyways, we have a lot of just really great kids here in Lockport, and we all know that. And I wanted to also just thank the staff, all the staff. One of my favorite things during this pandemic is, well, not my favorite. One of the things I'm doing a lot is spending a lot of time online and watching videos and things like that. And one of my favorite videos to watch are the ones that the district is putting up on our social media of kids singing, the teachers doing messages for the kids, and it just makes you feel so good. And so, in these times where there's all the negativity everywhere, just go to our district social media and you can just see sunshine, rainbows. I believe there was actually rainbows on the page today, which I really appreciated. I think there were some drawings on there, but and I just really, what everybody else has said, I want to thank this board. I was kind of looking at my calendar, and tonight is meeting 17 for this pandemic time. And so it's just a lot. It's just a lot of work that we're all putting in. And if we're putting in that work, that means that our administration is putting in even more than that, because they're all at those meetings and they're having to prepare for those meetings. And so there's just a lot of work going into everything right now, because by nature, everybody has to do more. And so just thank you to everybody. Really, I mean, this is how we get through it, is by working together. So I really appreciate everybody.
Thank you, Trustee Young. Trustee Kershaw.
So I'd like to echo my fellow trustees' sentiments. I think people have captured a whole lot of what I wanted to say, and I appreciate that. I am glad that we were able to have the opportunity to celebrate the top 10 students. I'm also excited to see some future nurses in the group. That's just kind of, I love that. I'd like to congratulate the whole senior class. I think Trustee Young made a good point that, with the grades being so high, there are probably a ton of people who have amazing accomplishments that we should celebrate as well. I also wanted to say a word of appreciation to Superintendent Bradley and Assistant Superintendent Coder and Schrader, because they've been so closely following these really frequent changes from the state. Sometimes it's, a whole bunch of changes in a day that we have to react to. And it's through their hard work and their collaboration with the building leaders and the teachers and their communication with us as the board that we were able to come up with this budget. And the fact that we didn't pass a budget, in March that wasn't going to be realistic. The fact that we today finally presented the final budget to go to the community is because of all of the work by the board, but also the work by the administration. And so I just wanted to express my appreciation to them.
Thank you, Trustee Kershaw. Last but not least, Trustee Pratt.
Well, thank you to our mission statement readers, and congratulations to the top 10 and all of our seniors this year. It's such an impressive group, and it is year in and year out. This particular year, more trying than probably any of us could have ever managed, and the same with them. But when you see these kids on screen, you can see the confidence in their face, you can hear the confidence in their voice. And I think the future is really bright as these future young leaders move into adulthood. I'm really proud of them and wish them the best of success. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Pratt. And with that, we are going to move on to the superintendent's comments. Mrs. Bradley.
Thank you, President Linderman. On Friday, May 1st, 2020, Governor Cuomo issued an executive order to close schools for the remainder of the 2019-2020 academic school year. That had to be some status.
Thank you, President Linderman. On Friday, May 1st, 2020, Governor Cuomo issued an executive order which closed schools in New York State for the remainder of the 2019-2020 school year. That had to be some of the saddest news that I've ever heard. On Wednesday, May 13th, 2020, the Board of Education acted on a final instructional day for students and final work day for 10-month staff for the 2019-2020 school year. The last day of school attendance for students in grades kindergarten through 8 is Thursday, June 11th, and for students in grades 9 through 12, the final day is June 12th. The final work day for 10-month employees at the K-8 level is Thursday, June 18th, and for those at the 9-12 level, Friday, June 19th. These dates were based on students and staff working through spring recess, the cancellation of Regents exams, and collective bargaining agreement language. The difference in dates between the K-8 and the 9 through 12 levels is due to the one-day emergency closing in November at Lockport High School due to a bomb threat. Students and staff at Lockport High School West at Charlotte Cross will follow the June 11th and June 18 dates. Based on these new dates, there is an end in sight to this unusual school year. With approximately 4 weeks of the school year remaining, it is important for students to continue to put forth their best effort in completing school assignments. Teachers will continue to provide feedback to students and parents on a regular basis. Just a reminder that these are not normal school days, and trying to force that idea may cause unnecessary frustration at home. Kitchens are not classrooms. Hang in there, everybody. Stay in regular contact with your child's teacher, put forth your best effort, and develop a schedule that works for your family. Plans for students to retrieve their personal belongings in desks and lockers are being developed. Parents will be contacted by their child's building principal with details for picking up items. An alternative plan for the 173rd commencement ceremony for the class of 2020 is under review. There is a focus on maintaining the traditional elements of commencement to the extent possible, while adhering to social distancing guidelines through an untraditional method. Mrs. Wilkie, Lockport High School principal, and members of the senior class are in the process of planning additional activities that recognize and celebrate seniors during this difficult and heartbreaking time. Please be reminded that due to COVID-19, all district buildings, playgrounds, and facilities are closed for usage by the community until further notice. Continue to be safe, social distance, and enjoy some of the spring-like weather we're predicted to have this weekend. Thank you for your attention, and be well. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mrs. Bradley. And with that, I need a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting.
So moved. Sorry, I was on mute.
Second.
I need a second. Who was that second? Trustee Young? Trustee
Second.
Young. Trustee Young, second. Discussion. Roll call.
Trustee Fiegel?
Aye.
Trustee Kershaw?
Aye.
Trustee Hare?
Aye.
Trustee Pratt?
Aye.
Trustee Sandell?
Aye.
Trustee Tobin?
Aye.
Trustee Young?
Aye.
And President Linderman.
Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks,
you.
Pat.
Night, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Good meeting.